Hello everyone, I'm Paul Piotrowski and welcome to another episode of the Paulymath Show. In this episode I'm going to be talking about time management and rapid weight loss. So as you can see, I've got a few products lined up here on the side that are all related to time management. And the first product I want to talk about it's called The Time of Your Life from Anthony Robbins. It's a course that I picked up about 10 years ago. And it's not just a time management system, it's more of a life management system. And in this course, Anthony Robbins teaches that he teaches basically an approach to life management, which is what's called a top-down approach. So basically, if you think of a pyramid, Tony Robbins teaches that you should sit down and you should look at the top of the pyramid, which is your mission statement and your ultimate vision for your life, and start there. Don't worry about your day-to-day tasks, what you're doing, and trying to get those things organized until you've sat down and actually put together a plan for what is it that you want out of your life at the very top level. So the top-down approach of time management, which is what this system teaches, is you start at the top, figure out your mission and your ultimate vision, and from there you break it down into, let's say, 6 or 8 or 10 different life categories. It's completely up to you how many categories you break it down into. But those categories might include things like your spiritual life, your financial life, your career, your body's health and wellness, things like that, your social life. So you start at the top, then you break it down into those components, those categories. From there, the idea is that you create goals such as, let's say, a 5-year goal or a 10-year goal, and work your way back to, let's say, 1-year goals and then quarterly goals within each one of those categories. And then you work it back to tasks and action steps that take you towards reaching those goals within each one of those categories. So you start at the top, break it down into different categories. From there, you break it down into individual goals, and then from there, you break it down into individual action steps. So working from the top to the bottom level, where you're left with individual things that you would do on a daily basis. So the time of your life system is a top-down approach, and the rapid planning method, also from Tony Robbins, is basically the day timer, which looks like this, and it's a day timer that you use to organize the time of your life philosophy. So essentially, once you have all those things figured out, and you've broken it down into individual goals, weekly goals and yearly goals and things like that, you use the rapid planning method, the day timer that Tony sells, to basically track everything. So it's a nice little system. I used it, I picked it up 10 years ago, and I learned a lot about, I really like the philosophy that it teaches as far as getting clear on what you want out of your life, and being clear what you want out of every category of your life, as opposed to just trying to organize your time. So I like that about the product. However, I have to say that it hasn't been something that I've been able to implement, especially the rapid planning method. It hasn't been something that I've been able to implement and stick with for any longer than, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks. And I'll tell you why. First of all, the day timer that you are expected to carry around with you looks like something from the 80s or the 90s, and dragging something like this around everywhere you go is not my idea of a good time. And I mean, in today's day and age, I'd like to be able to use some kind of computerized system along with maybe my iPhone or some kind of iPhone app that would work with this. So maybe if Tony Robbins had an iPhone app that fit in and made all this work, maybe it would work. But he did have a software platform that he came out with about 10 years ago, and I'll just say it wasn't very good. It didn't. It was a fairly weak product. I didn't find it useful at all. It was actually the manual day timer worked better than the software version, which isn't saying a lot. So the program itself and the philosophy, I think, is awesome and it's great, but at the top level, and then when you work your way down to the middle and the bottom levels where you're actually trying to track individual tasks, I found this system a bit cumbersome. So I've never really used it for any more than, let's say, 3 or 4 weeks. And I've tried multiple times to kind of implement it. So, what usually happens is I usually sit down, I go through the top level stuff, I figure out my ultimate vision, I figure out my goals for each one of the categories of life, I break it down. Once I get to the point where I have all these different goals and action steps that I want to take, that's when things break down for me. I haven't been able to use it to keep track of things. What I found with this system is that it gets to the point where trying to keep track of things takes more time than actually just doing them. And the other thing that I didn't like about this system, and this may just be me, but I don't really like scheduling my things on a daily basis. Meaning, what Tony teaches in here is to, once you figure out your goals and you've got your weekly plan of things you want to accomplish in this week, what he says is you should sit down and you should plan out your days. So you should schedule, like, let's say I'm gonna write a blog post. I should schedule time on Wednesday from 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. to write a blog post, as an example. And if you're going to be exercising, you should schedule that from this time to this time. And in theory, that should work. But from my experience, I have found that life kind of just doesn't work that way, at least not for me. Things always get changed up. And what do you do if, let's say, you phone somebody, let's say you're supposed to have a lunch meeting with a friend on Wednesday from 1 p.m. till 2 p.m. And 15 minutes before that, your friend phones you and he tells you he's going to be half an hour late. Well, now you got to rearrange your whole schedule for the day. And what if that lunch meeting ends up running an extra half an hour or an hour late, even on top of that? Or what if you schedule time with somebody and they cancel with you or they have to reschedule for the next day? It just gets too cumbersome trying to keep track of everything that's going on any given day. So I prefer to take a much more intuitive and fluid system where I get clear on what I want to accomplish in a given week, but I don't try to organize it too much and try to control every minute of every day. I prefer to kind of just wake up in the morning, know what my goals are, know what I want to achieve, but let the day kind of unfold and see what opportunities show up and try to plan things that way. So that was the other thing that I didn't like about that is the fact that it didn't give me the freedom to schedule my days. And it doesn't really take into account what I would consider the intuitive approach of looking at specific tasks and saying, well, intuitively, what do I feel like I should be doing right now? And changing things around and having the flexibility to move things around. So for me, it hasn't really worked. Now, I pulled the system out about 30 days ago when I started doing the Blogger Weight Loss Challenge with Tyler Cruz, because I wanted to get clear on what goals I want to set for my health and fitness, that category of my life. So I pulled the system out, I did that part, and once again, I found that it worked great at those levels. I set some goals, but once I got to the level of actual daily action steps, the system broke down for me, and it just, I don't know, it just doesn't work.